Well, hello, everybody, wherever you are. I should say good morning, good afternoon, and almost good evening, wherever you are across our Asia Pacific region. My name is Deb Camden, and together with my co-chair, Felicia, we're delighted to be presenting this Back to Measurement Basics with AMEC webinar this afternoon as part of Global Measurement Month 2022. So we've had a busy time of it, haven't we, Felicia? We've got our skates on in Asia Pacific.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. We've got a lot of webinars, offline seminars and talks. So yeah, it's a great time of the month to talk about measurement for PR and communications.
And we're delighted to also have in a very highly qualified, but in the background assistant here today with Jonna Burke, who's very kindly stayed up to be able to support us in delivering this today. So hello, Jonna.
Hello, everyone.
Well, we've got a fair bit of territory to cover today. So one of the items of feedback we had from members when Felicia and I joined as co-chair for the chapter was really about making the most of your AMEC membership. So today is about introducing you to three really important AMEC tools and resources, and they are the Barcelona Principles 3.0, the Integrated Evaluation Framework, the Measurement Maturity Mapper, and then to bring all of that to life, we've got Felicia, who's going to share with you her company's award-winning entry, but more so the journey as to how they have embraced measurement and evaluation. So in all good approaches to measurement, we're going to start out with a SMART objective. And our objective today is to increase interest amongst all of the attendees here in finding your measurement aha moment in AMEC's tools and resources. And I'm going to make a bet that we might start with 0% as our baseline, and we want to have 100% of people in this call today by the end of this webinar who are committed to seeking that measurement aha moment in the tool. So starting out as we plan to proceed, that's our SMART objective for today. The first thing I'm going to talk you through with our measurement basics are the Barcelona Principles. And if you don't know about them, this is an absolute prerequisite. It's the foundation of communication and PR measurement and evaluation, and AMEC have been the global thought leaders in bringing this thinking to the fore. So there have been three versions of the Barcelona Principles. The first were declared in 2010 at an AMEC summit in, you guessed it, Barcelona. They were updated in 2015. And then these most recent principles were launched in July 2020. And they reflect the broad standard of measurement that's focused heavily on measuring what matters to drive continuous improvement within an organisation rather than purely the value of communication, which was probably how they started out. So they have evolved, and I guess they are a reflection that measurement and evaluation are evolving. They reflect a holistic approach and to measurement and evaluation and a more standardized approach. So this is the starting point of your measurement journey, and the principles, I'll go through them briefly, but you just need to look up Barcelona Principles 3.0 on the AMEC website and you'll find the details. So there are 7 principles and I'll go through them at a high level. So the first one is about setting measurable goals is an absolute prerequisite to communication, planning, measurement, and evaluation. So that's what we've done at the start of this webinar today, is actually declared a measurable objective. Because that's about, in any of the work that we do, it's about the change we want to see. And it is the foundation then for your ability to measure. They can be qualitative or quantitative, but you really need to articulate measurable goals at the start of your measurement activity. The second principle is that measurement and evaluation should identify outputs, outcomes, and potential impact. So it's not enough to just do the counting. Really, what we're looking for in measurement and evaluation is looking at the change that has occurred, what we have achieved, what have been the results for our organisation. So it really is about looking for not only the outputs, but the outcomes and impact. So outputs are things, tangible and intangible things. They're the things we produce in the delivery of content, and outcomes are the behavioural and attitudinal changes and the things that you want to change in your audience. And impact is at the business, stakeholder or society level. What is the lasting impact of your work? So that's principle 2. Principle 3, outcomes and impacts should be identified for stakeholders, society, and the organisation. So, there isn't one right way to do all of this, but this challenges us to think more broadly in terms of really exploring how the role of communication, not only in your little team or your client's organisation, but more broadly the impact on society. And I guess we've seen that demonstrated critically throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, as the role of communication as essential workers in society has really been defined. The fourth principle is that communication measurement and evaluation should include both qualitative and quantitative analysis. So it's qualitative is the why behind the what. We're comfortable around numbers. Numbers will, be generated from all sorts of platforms that you use. But it is also saying that good research, good measurement and evaluation involves qualitative research, which is, looking at the why of how audiences behave to inform your work. And the other important thing here is that we're not only looking for success, we're also looking at measuring for progress and measuring to understand. The fifth principle is that AVEs, advertising value equivalents, are not the value of communication. And you will hear that often in measurement and evaluation discussions, that in the early days when people used to clip out things out of newspapers, that was used as a way of trying to prove our value. But we really have moved well beyond that now in the digital landscape and trying to assign a dollar value as being the value of communication. We say no to ABEs in the Barcelona Principles, and there's a great resource which is there are 22 reasons to say no to ABEs. I'm not going to go into those today, but certainly well worth you having a look at that. And I guess those of you who have clients who are wanting a single number as a demonstration of your value, this gives you the basis for changing and educating your clients into understanding the broader value of communication in the work that we do. Principle number 6, holistic communication, measurement and evaluation includes all relevant online and offline channels. So really what it's saying there is more to the world than the digital space, and for holistic measurement, we need to be looking both in offline channels, as in stakeholder engagement, things that you do face-to-face with consumers, not only the digital world in which we take part. And the seventh principle is that communication, measurement, and evaluation are rooted in integrity and transparency to drive learning and insights. So it's really important that we behave ethically in the way that we approach our task. And this is a challenge for us to, commit to best practice measurement and evaluation through integrity, but also to be using data and information as a basis for to drive learning and insights. So beyond the numbers, what is it telling us? What difference is it making? What more could or should we be looking for? So that brings me to the end of the first of the very important AMEC resources, which are the Barcelona Principles 3.0. I might just check in to see if we've got any questions from anybody at this stage. And by all means, please put your questions in the Q&A. If there's anything that isn't clear to you, this is your opportunity for Felicia, Jonna, and myself to answer your questions. So I will just check in to see if we've got any questions at the moment. It doesn't look like it to me. No questions. It is open, so please do put your questions in there, and I can see that Jonna is sharing some of the resources that I'm referring to as well. So please take advantage of that. So that's the first of our core resources explained. And I would encourage all of you to review them, think about them, and pledge your support for the Barcelona Principles as an indication to your clients and your organisations that you are committed to best practice. The second of our measurement basics involves the integrated evaluation framework. This is a fantastic tool that's available to you for free, and it is based on the premise of, again, this notion of thinking holistically and in an integrated way, that one channel's not more important than another, that that you think holistically. The IEF, as you'll hear it referred to, was launched in July 2016 and has been such a huge success. It's been translated into 22 different languages. It is the result of the best of the thinking from academics and industry professionals worldwide, and it continues to prove its value. And in effect, it shows how you bring the Barcelona Principles into action and to prove the value of PR in a meaningful and credible way. So let me introduce that to you now. So the framework also makes sure that there is a consistent and credible approach for large organisations, small organisations, whether it's a campaign or a broader strategy. It is adaptable and flexible to your needs, and really is a fantastic plan on a page solution that you can use with your teams and also to sort of educate your clients along the way. The tool itself sits in on the AMEC website. Again, Google AMEC IEF, and it's an interactive tool. It does have a password so that you can you don't have to have all the answers at once. You can return to it. So use it as a resource. Your team can work with it, and you'll find tremendous value in it. But this is where we start to introduce some really important concepts that you will hear time and time again in your measurement and evaluation journey. And you can see there's a very simple approach, 7 steps. 7 seems to be a good lucky number here. Objectives, inputs, activity, outputs, outtakes, outcomes, impact, and then you submit it. And I'd like to just explain a little bit more about that. Because as I said, these are the words that you're going to hear a fair bit about. So outputs are what you put out that is received by the target audience. Outtakes are what the audience actually does with what you produce and what they take out of your communication. Outcomes are the effects that your communication has on audiences. And then ultimately we're looking at impacts, as I said earlier, which is like business results. So let's start at the very beginning, as the song says, very good place to start. So you need to start with clear organizational objectives. And that can often, often be difficult. People have asked me, if my company doesn't have a written plan, what do I do? Well, you have the discussions to find out within your organization the difference that communication is meant to have. And you use this at the start to help plot your thinking and to make sure that as you're developing your measurement framework, that you're solving the right problem. So this tool can be used both for planning and for evaluation. There's another separate planning worksheet that we could probably take you through another webinar, but in terms of the basics, the integrated evaluation framework, we're looking at it today to how it can help you design your campaign or strategy and the measurement evaluation associated with it. So the important thing here is to understand the difference between goals and objectives, and they're probably one of the areas that people most often struggle with. But if you think of an objective, actually it has a specific way of being able to measure it. And we would talk to SMART objectives: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. So all measurement, as we said in the Barcelona Principles, start with SMART, measurable objectives. So you design your communication objectives. What's the role of and the purpose of what you're doing, and align it to what your organization is needing from you. Donna is fantastic in that she challenges me and us to think more deeply. And when I was thinking about this, Donna said, well, what about smarter objectives? And the E and the R can also reflect, ethics, to behave more ethically, and R can also be around, reliability, replicability, and the sort of iteration that you go through with measurement. So I think there's a challenge there for us all to be smarter. And there are just some tips there that'll be available to you after today's session when it comes to writing your SMART objectives or smarter objectives. And again, I won't go through this now, but this is there as a resource for you as an example of what an actual SMART objective can look like, that is time-bound, that considers the audience, considers the action that you want the audience to take, and the time frame. The next stage of the integrated evaluation framework looks at inputs, and that's both the target audience and really understanding, who you're targeting and why. Excuse me. And now the inputs are the things that are needed to inform and prepare your communication, such as describing what's the situation that you're delivering your campaign into, what are the resources you require, what sort of budget have you got. The third aspect of the framework are activities, and the tool recognises the importance of paid, earned, shared and owned, PESO, you might have heard of that, and allows you to, note them and segment them accordingly and help you to think about, have you got the right balance in order to achieve your objectives. Next come the outputs, and it's sort of the content of the materials that you are actually going to deliver to your target audience, and it becomes the basis for your measurement and evaluation. Because what you're going to want to understand is how much has your audience actually seen? What have they recalled? What was the impact of that activity, our earlier activities, on my target audience? Swapping over to outtakes. So yeah, this is where you explore even further. Was your audience engaged? Did they share? Did they like? Did they download something? Did they visit a website? What action did they actually take in response to the campaign outputs and activities? Next come outcomes, and that's the more of the behavioural basis of the change that we're seeking in communication and with our strategies and campaigns. So when you're using this at the start of your work, you're imagining, and this is where the art rather than the science of communication kicks in, and you're imagining what does success look like? What behaviour have I changed? What has occurred as a result? Have people stopped smoking? Have they do they have healthier eating habits? Do they perceive you as a better employer? So that's the sort of longer term behavioural and attitudinal changes occur there, and that's where you have to really give some deep thought as to the outcome that you're seeking from your communication. And then lastly is the impact section, where you look at the organisational objectives. This is what my organisation wants from me. This is how communication is going to support it. And it's things like reputation, brand reputation. It's things like changes in policy. It's attracting the right candidates into your organisation. Have you improved relationships with key stakeholders? Have you increased sales? So it's that link between the communication objective and the organisation objective occurs here when you're thinking about measuring impact. So that's a very high-level introduction to the integrated evaluation framework. As I said, it is both for at the beginning of your work, you can revisit it throughout, and then it's at the end of your campaign plan strategy, where you have put in place the measures and the metrics that are going to point you to success. Also a reminder here that there is a highfalutin word called a taxonomy, but it's basically the guidelines for using the framework. Again, John has provided it there in the chat, and very important, very worthwhile having a look. It explains it way better than I do, and with a great deal more depth than I have today. And as John has, shared with us, it does help to break down barriers within your organisation, because you've got a language around measurement that really does help to bring the conversation together and enhance your credibility. So that's the IEF in a speed basics presentation. I will just check in to see if we've got any questions at this point for around the IEF? I can't see any there. The stage. Okay, so I will move on then to our third, oh, that's the taxonomy that Jonna was referring to. You'll find that in the resources on the AMEC website. So our third basic is the measurement maturity mapper, M3 as it's known. It was, and this is all about continuous improvement and recognizing that measurement and evaluation is a journey, and everyone's at different stages, and that's okay. We all have a lot that we can learn from each other, and I've found it very, very helpful in conversations around measurement with clients and working in organizations to help them to understand that it is okay to be at the beginning of the journey, and it can be you know, a great challenge. But it also, the other great thing about the M3 is that it gives you an idea of where you could be. It paints a picture of the future of what best practice measurement and evaluation looks like. So it's a survey-based tool, and it takes you through a series of 9 questions, again, all of which are rooted in the Barcelona Principles and the integrated evaluation framework. So you can see how these 3 basics build upon each other. And they're focused on how organizations or your client's organization currently approaches communication, measurement, and evaluation at 3 levels. And they are reporting. So to what degree is the organization measuring outputs, outtakes, and outcomes? Those concepts I introduced earlier. And that's assessed both in terms of channels, metrics, and frequency. What are the channels that you use? What are the metrics you use? How often do you report on them? Planning. What is your planning approach towards communication? And starting with setting objectives and KPIs. So again, that important concept of the Barcelona Principles #1, which is about you know, setting measurable objectives as being the foundation of measurement and evaluation. And also how much you integrate with other disciplines as well. And then the third level is demonstrating impact. And so to what degree does your organization's measurement and evaluation go beyond the metrics, and what methods are you using to make, you know, links between communication and the ultimate organizational result or impact? So you hear that language of outcomes and impact starting to come through again. The result is, so these are that's the style of questioning that, you know, there are 9 very easy questions. You go through, you assess yourself along the scale that is there in the question, and it's really worthwhile doing for anyone, whether it's a small team or in a larger organization, or if you're running an agency as well, and you want to help your client to understand what the possibilities are based on where they are now. So at the end of it, you've answered all the questions, you get a fantastic output, which shows you where you are in terms of reporting, planning, and impact as a relative benchmark against other respondents who have been undertaking the M3 and using the M3 tool by market, by sector, by organization type or size. So it's really helpful because you know that you're not alone when you do complete the M3. And beyond that, so not only do you do that, but you also get very practical advice in terms of, you know, what your strengths are from those 3 levels of reporting, planning, and impact. And as importantly, you also get suggested actions, the things you could be doing based on where you are at within your measurement journey. And it encourages you to continue striving to be, you know, and continuously improving and striving for to be better. So, so that's M3. That's our 3 basics. I'll just check in to see if we've got any questions at this point. Gee, I must be clear because I can't see any any questions at the moment. Hopefully, it is. We're taking a pace that is easy for you to follow. The next step we thought in today's webinar is actually to bring this all alive. So we are delighted to be able to have Felicia here with us today to take us through her company's journey in using AMEC's integrated evaluation framework within their team at Maverick in Indonesia. So Felicia, what made you decide to use the AMEC framework within Maverick? You're on mute, Felicia.
I was indeed. First of
Gotcha.
all, thank you, Deb. Thank you for the introductions on all the AMEC resources. I hope that everybody's attending here is finding it useful. Why did we decide to use the integrated evaluation framework? I guess for a while, I think about 6 years ago, we started to feel that, you know, PR value was no longer right. For many years, we have been using PR value. I think it's like, you know, almost everybody in the industry. But with the changes that took place, you know, we're no longer just looking at newspapers, the mainstream media, because, you know, with the coming of social media as an alternative channel to communicate to our stakeholders, we realized that, you know, PR value didn't really give us the real picture. Because I mean, at Maverick, we you know, what we do is we try as best as we can, trying to make a difference for our clients. So we'd be doing all of these wonderful campaigns, all of the activities. At the end of the day, the value or the effectiveness of what we did was only measured by the number of news clips. In a way that was kind of devalued what we did, underestimated what we did. So about 6 years ago, we knew that we had to change, but we didn't really have the guidelines. We needed some guidelines. We needed some kind of frameworks and best practices to learn from. And so we discovered AMEC. And in 2018, we joined as a member. And from then on, we learn internally, we upskill ourselves to learn about the wonderful resources that AMEC has offered, including the integrated evaluation framework. So since then, we have been really using it right from the start, and now it becomes our key resource that, you know, for everything that we do for our clients.
Well, that's wonderful, and it's quite brave to change direction, to actually embrace a new way of working. How have you found it's helping you with your clients, and were they, you know, receptive to this change in approach that you were embracing through the integrated evaluation framework?
Well, I think as you probably have experienced yourself, when we look at the industry, especially in this market, in the region, you know, different client would be at a different level in terms of their readiness to move or to transition away from the use of PR value. So we had a different level of challenges and receptions, I guess, you know. So we had clients who already like, okay, in the similar stage as we were, thinking that, okay, well, PR value is no longer relevant, ready for change. Then we also had clients who are still using PR value, understanding that, well, it's no longer relevant. However, they do have reporting that they have to deliver, say, for example, to the headquarters, maybe, who still demand PR value. So when we talk about the receptions from clients, I guess it varies. So some is easier than others. But we
So
have
it wasn't just
yeah.
a simple cutover on any given day, you know, that you decided that you were going to introduce the IEF to your clients. Was it a change over time?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's not like an overnight change for sure. So it required, you know, a process. Those who are ready, it was easier for us. You know, then we started introducing the integrated evaluation framework. We started having the conversations about, you know, the objective and trying to linking it with all of the activities that that we did. However, for those who were probably in a different stage, then what we did was trying to ease them off. So they may still be using PR value. However, then we start giving and providing alternative insights, alternative analysis. So then they started, you know, being familiar that there are actually an alternative. We can actually look at the result in a different way, not just from counting the news clips.
Can I also ask, you know, the framework itself encourages this approach to integrated thinking. Did you find it easy or difficult to, you know, change the way you thought from, you know, organizational objectives, defining communication objectives? Did it slow things down, or has it made you faster in the way that you've
Okay.
approached your planning?
That's a good question. Well, I wouldn't say it slowed us down. The way I guess we can see it is, it was worth you know, time and effort to invest. And I think you touch on the planning. Now, I think for a long time, we have had the habit of you know, we've been really good at doing stuff. We've been really good at doing activities. We've been good at, you know, distributing press releases. But very often we forget to spend sometimes at the planning process right from the start. And so when we talk about change, that was the biggest change, I guess, internally. Now we commit, we say, okay, we're not going to do anything before we are clear on the objective. And we have been using the planning worksheet that AMEC has released also quite recently. And we found it really, really useful because it forced us to sit down and really think about, okay, what is the objective and how is that linked to the organizational business objective? What success will look like? So did it slow it down? Well, it does take much longer time at the beginning. However, along the way, it was much easier for us to measure the progress. We can track it easier, and then we know where we are at because the objective is clear and we know where we're heading. So
it saves you time ultimately, doesn't it, by having
right.
the deeper thinking at the
Right.
beginning. One of the things I love about it is it does force you to be strategic. And we, you know, strategy is a much overused word, but it, you know, this does both, you know, force but also enable and empower you to be strategic, and it also allows you to say the things that you're not going to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, sorry. And also another thing is, it's not just the ability to for us to measure the progress, but at the end we're able to measure what really matters. So, you know, we'll be able to evaluate how far we are from achieving the objective rather than just counting news clips.
I love that, you know, what really matters, because, you know, many practitioners feel unloved because, you know, we're only based on what we produce, whereas, or evaluated based on what we produce, the output, rather than, you know, we would do ourselves way more favors if we could actually articulate the outcome and the impact of our work. And that's what the IEF also encourages us to do. I'm interested to know, with your team, how receptive were they to the change and to this change in the way that you were going to be measuring your activities for your clients? And was it easy or difficult to get everybody on board?
Not a straight easy or difficult. I guess we did definitely have to get a buy-in and a support internally, because at the end of the day, we are the one who will be delivering, results to our client. So, and that was the very first step we took. So the internal, I guess, education was very important. Everybody was, we all had to learn about the Barcelona Principles, then in integrated evaluation framework. And obviously it took time, and we are still in the progress, we are still learning. But what helped us, I guess, that was really, really helpful is we enforce it and we really change the language internally. So, we used to, at every event, we used to basically go around and ask, okay, so how many news clips did we get? What was the result? And what's the PR value? Every month when we're actually doing reporting, that's what we do. But we kind of like try to change that language. So even though we didn't have all of these things in place, but we started asking the questions. So instead of just looking at news clips, we started asking, okay, so did that campaign generate, what sort of engagement did it generate? Was it low? Did we actually get any response at all? So we started looking at outtakes, and we start having the conversation. If there is an event coming up, how is that linked to the objective? How is that linked to the client's communications objective? Even though, we sort of, for some of the clients that we started adopting midway, it may not have all of these in place, but we just ask the questions because it forced us to shift to the right track, basically. Yeah.
And I think what's really fascinating about that too is that, I see embracing measurement and evaluation as a personal, professional opportunity. And you don't have to be great at numbers to be great at asking questions and deeply understanding and solving a problem. Have you seen that amongst your staff, some of whom probably aren't all that great with numbers or wouldn't consider themselves numbers people, but I'm sure that they have curiosity and they have, good inquiring minds to be asking the right sorts of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, not everybody's good at numbers and to be the analyst, but what AMEC is providing here with the framework is not just about numbers. We are talking about the whole of communication strategy, right? We, the team at my team, the analytics team, we be crunching the numbers, we be doing the numbers. However, the consultants, those who are dealing directly with the clients, they need to understand what we are trying to achieve. They need to understand, the communications objective and how that's going to solve or achieve the organization objective of our clients. So they need to understand, they don't need to be good at numbers, but they do need to know where we are at and the purpose that we're trying to do for our clients and how we're going to measure the progress from there.
I'm going to throw you a curveball question. It's not one that we've discussed, but how has winning a gold AMEC award, and I think that's just spectacular that you achieved that, how has that impacted on your business? Have you been able to leverage that in some way in your standing, both either internally or externally?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, yes. I think more on the raising the awareness. I think taking the leadership in the market, in the industry, that or this is the time that we need to move away from the old metric that we used to use, and there are these other wonderful resources from AMEC, and we need to start measuring what matters. And I think you know, with us winning the award last year, it gives that and give us the ability to leverage that, and you know, to I guess to raise that awareness about measurement.
Thanks, Felicia. I'll just check in with our trusty support from Jonna to see if we've got any questions from our attendees today. I know she's been encouraging questions there, but we don't have any at this time. That's fine. Just giving you the opportunity if you do have a question. So if you're comfortable, Felicia, we might move towards closing out the webinar today then. Got a couple of other things we'd like to mention. And just to recap then, we've done our 3 measurement basics, the Barcelona Principles, AMEC Integrated Evaluation Framework, and the Measurement Maturity Mapper. And we've been able to tap into Felicia's very generous offer to share the measurement journey within Maverick. As I mentioned at the beginning of this call, we have a SMART objective, which was to increase interest amongst all of our attendees, as there might be strong silent types out there, but I hope somewhere you have found your measurement aha moment within our AMEC tools and resources. I'd love to think that 100% of you have, but if not in this session, let's hope that that occurs after today. So where can you get started with all of this? This is just a beginning to whet your appetite of the sorts of resources and tools that are available for you. If you, the AMEC is generous and, you know, in providing these wonderful tools. It's really just up to you to make the effort to Google it, find it, and start working with it. So there's, you know, as the site says, there are tremendous resources. Now, if we've piqued your interest, there's also formal education that you can undertake. AMEC has a college for educational courses, and there are 3 in particular that would be very suitable and relevant if you want to continue your measurement journey. So there's the Foundation in Media Measurement and Evaluation course. There's 40 lessons in that. But importantly, if you're an AMEC member on this call today, it is one of your member benefits is to be able to undertake this course at no fee. And I think I'm right about that, Jonna, but if not, certainly let me know. The other courses include, there's one on the Integrated Evaluation Framework. There's a tutorial course on that, which is 33 lessons, but it will take you through across 14 different modules. It's available on demand with real-time case studies. And then the third educational opportunity is the International Certificate in Measurement and Evaluation. Each course lasts for about 10 weeks. It's on an online e-learning platform. And then there's a 5-week final assignment period, and all the materials remain accessible to the students. So there you go. If you want to do some professional development, there are 3 particular courses there. But at the end of the day, it's important that you, it's in your hands to make the most of your membership. There are tremendous resources there. And please, by all means, stay in touch with Felicia and I through Basecamp. We'd love to hear from you at any time. So before I wrap up, Felicia, is there anything you would like to say in closing out today?
Yes, I think we have a question, Deb.
Ah, a question. Woohoo.
Yep.
Let's see. How to explain easily output, outtake, and impact to audiences based on our experience. I've been talking a lot. Felicia, did you want to have a go at that? And then I can as well.
Okay, all right. So let me try to explain this. So the easiest way to explain that is output is basically what you do, all the activities that you do. For example, you know, when you, the news articles, what we've been doing, what I imagine that you've probably been doing, counting the news clips, calculating PR values. And sometimes when we invite, media, if we have a media conference, media engagement, we can also, the number of attendees, they are the measure of output. Okay, so strictly is you counting based on your activities, things that you actually publish, that you produce. Okay, now outtakes is what how people are responding or reacting to your content, right? So they're actually doing something when they see your content. Okay, so that could be if you click like, you share what you see on Instagram posts, or sometimes if you attend an offline event, say it's you feel really good about it and you really love it, and you go and tell your friend about it. So that's it's a recommendation. That could also be considered as outtake. If you put in a review on TripAdvisor, for example, that could also be an outtake. It's something that when an audience is responding or reacting to your content. Okay, so outcome is what you do or what your stakeholders do as a result of your communications. Okay, so that could be a change of attitude, a perception change. So that very often is linked to the communications objective that you're trying to achieve. So those are the three different levels. Okay, the way, in addition to that, output is a very short-term metric, because you can pretty much do it immediately after each event, or when you look at the number of news that got published. Now, outtakes, it's can be short-term, can be midway, because if you just launch a campaign online, you can pretty much see the engagement, but outcome is a long-term, right? Because if you're trying to change a perception or trying to change an attitude, it does take some time. So it's a long-term metric. I hope that explained. Did you want to add? Is there anything that you like to add, Deb?
No, I think you've explained that brilliantly. So I think that's the other, we referred earlier to the taxonomy, and that's sort of that's the language that's used in the framework. If you really are looking for a resource that helps you to explain that, you'll find that there as well, those descriptions. And it's really all about the what you're doing with your audiences, either delivering content, what they take out of it, and then ultimately how they are changed and how your organization is impacted by what you do. So thank you for the question.
Yeah, so I think just to add to that, Deb, another way to summarize it between output, outtakes, and outcome is you see, think, and do. So see for the output, think for the outtakes, and you do for the outcome. All right, so those are the three different levels of, I guess, act.
Fantastic, that's great. Well, with no further questions, I think we will wrap up our special Measurement Month webinar. Thank you for engaging with us. It's the first time that Felicia and I have organised and delivered a webinar like this on behalf of AMEC, so we appreciate your support, and also to John, I always appreciate your enthusiasm, support and dedication to making us all better within our profession. So thank you again. This link will be available through our Basecamp to our Asia Pacific chapter. So thank you again, and all the best wherever you are in Asia Pacific or the United States in John's case.
Thank you, everyone.